Welcome to the Betting Edge, Friday, October 4th. He's Marco D'Angelo. I am Drew Martin, stepping in for the Prez. Tough fill here, but we got college football, NFL, Major League Baseball. We're breaking it down with Marco D'Angelo from WagerTalk.com. Marco, happy Friday to you.
Hey, Drew, little breath of fresh air, no Prez today, and get you instead. That's good. It makes it a happy Friday.
We can go after him a little bit. And,
no, he always goes after me. I got it. He's not here. Take a couple shots at him, but love working with you. And you're a newbie to Las Vegas, and remember when it comes to food guide, tour guide, you want to know the sports bars and everything. I'm a professional. I write an article for Gaming Today about different places to eat, and actually, Drew, the last month, you might want to check out, go back online and check those out, because I'm doing my world tour of Las Vegas sports bars. Each week, I'm doing a different one since the football season started, at different places I like to go to hang out, good food, good drinks, and watch games. So that's a good start for you to do your homework to find out where to go in Vegas.
Okay, on Gaming Today, I'll check that out. Not only a sports handicapper, one of the best in the business, but a bar and restaurant handicapper as well. Marco D'Angelo, man of many talents. And Marco, go ahead.
We love the food. You know that.
Yeah, the food, the drinks. In Vegas, I'll tell you, so far, man, I'm very impressed with the food. It's definitely a food place.
It absolutely is. And as I was telling you the other day, Drew, the best part of Vegas for us, for West Coast guys, is like the Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night games. When we were back on the East Coast, you were a Miami guy, I was a Pittsburgh guy. Those games didn't start till 8:30 at night.
Right.
You already had dinner and everything. Now, here in Vegas, it's happy hour. It's 5:30. We're in the middle of happy hours. There's great happy hours all over town in Vegas. And one night, I will take you to my best happy hour. It's not a sports bar, but this is the best happy hour secret in Vegas. I've talked about this numerous times on other podcasts and things that I've done. But I know a place in Vegas, Drew, and I think you like steak.
Yeah.
That I can take you for a great steak. Their happy hour is 50% off on steaks.
Wow. Okay. Happy hour for steak. Absolutely. Let's do it on the schedule within the next month, Marco. I'm taking you up on that, man.
All right. We'll do it.
All right.
Let's get into some games, man.
Let's do it. This is the Betting Edge. And let's start off with college football first. We got a Big 12 matchup here, Marco. And, this is a situation spot. We've seen West Virginia at home do very well against the Big 12 in conference play. A new coach this year, so kind of a lot going on. Todd Herman, we all know about his underdog record, but as a favorite, not nearly as hot. We got the West Virginia Mountaineers hosting the Texas Longhorns. How you looking to bet this Big 12 matchup?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'll be honest. When the season started, I thought West Virginia was going to be a total shit show this year, Drew, with Dana Holgorsen leaving, going down to Houston. The cupboard was left bare at West Virginia. New coach come in, Neil Brown. I really expected a drop-off. And after the first two games of the season, it looked like that was what it was going to be. They barely got by a James Madison team, laying 7 points. They win by 7. And then they absolutely got the doors blown off them, going to Missouri 38-7. So all of a sudden, you're saying, all right, this is a team that we're going to be, fading. West Virginia. Not a lot of talent, new coach, changing things around. You know how that is. We talk about it so many times with the videos and things that we do at WagerTalk, that when a new coach comes in, there's a learning curve there. It's not going to be an instant upgrade. In a lot of times, not an instant downgrade either, depending on what the personnel is left there. Because when you take over a new team, you don't get to build that roster. You do build the roster, but it builds over time with recruits. You got to finish, the next season, the first season you have, and generally the second season, it's going to be that last coach's players. And they may not be suited for what you want to run. So often we see, passing teams, a coach comes in, loves to pass, and he takes over for a coach that was a running coach, or vice versa. Those players need to adapt, and it's not just the star players. It's the offensive line guys, the scheme guys, the blocking of different game plans that you run. It takes time. What we've seen with West Virginia, though, the last two games, now granted, it's not the competition that they're going to face today with Texas, but the NC State game, they put up 44 points against NC State, winning 44-27, and then they come back. Kansas, upstart team, new coach there, Les Miles making a little bit of noise. Kansas had a big upset and everything earlier in the year. And what do we see? They go in there and they beat Kansas 29-24. So now with 2 weeks to prepare, they're catching a Texas team who also had 2 weeks to prepare. But as you know, Drew, I love to look for situational spots. And if you looked at the schedule for Texas and what they're in, they had 2 weeks to prepare. So that negates it a little bit. But they're coming off their last game. They played Oklahoma State. That was a big game for Texas. I think that was their legitimizer, so to speak, where we got to take Texas serious. We saw them have a good showing earlier in the year at LSU in a loss when they lost by 7, but it was a very good-looking loss. And since then, they beat Rice, so what? But the Oklahoma State game was a statement game. Their real game is next week. That's the game they're looking to. It's, the Red River rivalry. It used to be the Red River shootout, but we got to be politically correct and not call it that. So the Red River rivalry is next week against Oklahoma. I just think that this is a bad situational sandwich spot, somewhat of a trap. And if you look at the betting market, the line has been creeping its way down slowly. This line was 11.5, 11, 10.5. I'm seeing a couple 10s out there at a couple of the books. So I'm looking at the West Virginia side here. I think they're going to be able to stay within the number. I'm respecting the line move as well. I'm going to take West Virginia. I know if we had Kelly on here, she would be yelling prime time home dog. And that's where I'm going to play this one, West Virginia.
Like in the home dog in the Big 12. Yeah. This matchup definitely points towards West Virginia on the situational spot. Great breakdown there, Marco. Guys, you can check out Marco's packages at WagerTalk.com. Also, we have a special for this video. MD79 gives you a 7-day all access for a discount there, just $79 at WagerTalk.com. 7-day all access. Coupon code MD79 at checkout. We got Michigan. We got Iowa. This is a good one here in the Big Ten, Marco. And, I'm of the camp. Iowa's got the better coach. Iowa's got the better quarterback, in my opinion anyway, and getting points. I like that matchup, but I know a lot of people liking the Michigan Wolverines here. Where do you fall?
Yeah, this is one of those ones where Coach Jimmy Harbaugh, he got to get a big win, and he needs to get a big win in a hurry. This was supposed to be the year for Michigan to dominate this. We thought going in, and boy, were we wrong. We thought that Urban Meyer retiring and losing Haskins to the NFL, that Ohio State would take a step backwards. They haven't. Ohio State, one of the best teams in the country. Michigan, we thought this would be the year they would do it. Now, not only they got to contend with Ohio State yet, Wisconsin's playing well, and Wisconsin put that beating on Michigan. And that's the key here, I think, in this line, Drew. Everybody remembers that Wisconsin game. And, they're looking at that one, and they look at Michigan, and they say, okay, you open the season with a ho-hum win against Middle Tennessee State. Then you play Army. And, to play Army early in the season, you don't practice the option that often. These teams don't see it. So that gives these option teams a big advantage when they're not used to seeing them, especially whenever you're playing it in a 7-day period. They played on the 31st of August and then came back 7 days later to play Army. And that Army game was before the Wisconsin game. They had a bye after it, but they just barely got by Army. So a lot of people put up the red flag on Michigan. And then after the Wisconsin game, man, you saw all those people that jumped on that Michigan bandwagon at the beginning of the season. They were knocking each other off, trying to get to the lifeboats, bail and ship on Michigan. And I think you're seeing that in a line here. I don't have it in front of me, but I know that the game of the year lines back in the summertime, Michigan was a huge favorite in this game. And now you're looking at a number of just 3.5. I got to look at Michigan here. I know Iowa's played great, but let's be honest, Drew. Who have they beaten so far? Their best game to date was Iowa State. that, rivalry game in state. It was an ugly dogfight. 18-17 was the final score.
Yeah.
But everybody's talking about how good the Iowa defense has been, because that's the most points they gave up, was 17 points to Iowa State. But when you play Miami of Ohio, Rutgers, and Middle Tennessee State as the other three opponents, yeah, your defense is going to look good. I go back to the one good team they played, which was Iowa State. And Iowa State put up 327 yards passing in that game, completing 25 of 35. This game comes squarely on the shoulders of Shea Patterson. He's got to get it done, and they've got to open up the offense. That's been the problem with Michigan. They've had a great defense over the years, but so far this year, the defense hasn't lived up to the billing of the past years. And coming in, all we heard about was Michigan was changing the offense. They were going to get a little more tempo in their offense. And this would have been the second year for Shea Patterson in the system. He was the transfer in here last year, had some growing pains. I'm going to go ahead and say this is the game Michigan gets it and puts it together. I like Michigan. This, for me, is a value play. I think the market is overreacted to Iowa. I think Iowa is a counterfeit 4-0. I'm taking Michigan minus the points on Saturday.
All right, going with the talent-wise and top to bottom, I think you're right there in the Michigan side. I just, it's an interesting handicap. I think you can make arguments for both sides, but I see your side towards the Michigan Wolverines here. Let's head to the NFL, Marco. We got 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific kick here, 463, 464 on the rotation number. New York Jets, Philadelphia Eagles. Looks like we got 14 in the hook. That's the Eagles laying at home, 43.5 the total. We got Sam Darnold with mono cleared to practice, but what's going on with that situation, Marco? And what's your overall thoughts here? You looking to lay it with the Eagles?
Oh, absolutely not. And this is an ugly, ugly game. And I'll tell you what, this is a game I really like. It's probably going to make my card on Sunday. I've given this play out on every show I've done this week. That's how much I like it, Drew. And it's because it is the perfect situation. We just talked about a sandwich spot in the last game that we did when we talked about Texas, West Virginia. This is the mother of sandwiches. You look at Philadelphia, they're coming off that Thursday night game where they went to Lambeau. And after losing to the Lions and dropping to 1-2 on the season, their season was basically, not all, you don't want to say anybody's season's on the line in the fourth week of the season, but the Cowboys were 3-0 going into last week, and they were, chasing the Cowboys. And at 1-2, if you drop to 1-3, you got a lot of ground to make up early in the season if you're 2 games out of first place right away, and potentially more if Dallas wins Sunday night against the Saints. So they went to Green Bay on Thursday and got the job done. Green Bay was undefeated. Everybody was back on the bandwagon. Aaron Rodgers this and Aaron Rodgers that. But now, after they get that satisfying win, they come home to play the Jets. The Jets have been an absolute train wreck so far this season. The lowest scoring offense in the NFL. And how do you get excited for the Jets? That in itself, just if it was those two elements, would have me with the letdown situation on Philly. But we take it a step further and look at the schedule and see who Philadelphia plays next. They got a road game against Minnesota, another NFC team that, although they're not in their division, if they don't win their division, this is a team that they're going to have to contend with most likely for a wild card possibility. So this is an important game next week. So you talk about the mother of all sandwiches. You got Green Bay on the front end of the sandwich. Then you got Minnesota on the back end of the sandwich, and you got the Jets sitting in the middle there. You're not getting pumped up for this team. So we got a disinterested, in my opinion, Philadelphia team. Now let's look at the Jets and dissect. Well, still, it's the Jets. Why would you even trust them? Well, that first game of the season that they lost to Buffalo, Drew, Sam Darnold played horribly. Well, we find out 2 days later after that game why he played horribly. They announced that he had mono. He didn't just get mono on Tuesday when they announced it. He definitely was suffering from something on Sunday when he played, and it affected his performance. And then they dug deeper and found out what the hell was going on. So then goes to the Cleveland game. The Monday night game, you got to start a backup quarterback, Trevor Siemian. I was never a fan of what he did at Denver, and I didn't get to see much of what he was going to do with the Jets because he got knocked out of the game so early in the game. And now you have the Jets who down their first quarterback, down their second quarterback. They had to bring in Luke Falk, who they just signed. You know, he was familiar with Gase's offense from being at Miami, but still not with the team, and they had to throw him to the Wolves in that game. So they did absolutely nothing against Cleveland, scoring 3 points. And then what do you have to do for an encore? You play on Monday night, and then you got to play on a short week the next week against the New England Patriots, and Bill Belichick, getting a, rookie quarterback, no experience. He's going to eat him alive. They scored 14 points in that game, but it was total domination by the Patriots in that one. So for them having the bye week last week was the best thing that could possibly happen to the Jets. I'm not a fan of teams that get bye weeks early in the season. I don't think they're helpful. I think that, all it is a momentum breaker. You just started the season. You don't have all those, aches and pains that you have the mid-season guys, banged up, nicked up, they could use that week off. But in this case, this was the best time for them to get that bye week because now they had 2 weeks to devise a game plan for Luke Falk. Get him accustomed to the system and be able to call a game plan that goes to his strengths and be able to come out there. And Philadelphia doesn't know what to expect because there's not a lot of game film on Luke Falk. So that's another advantage. So you're going to see the best effort that we have seen out of the Jets this season so far. And I know that's not a big reach for how bad the Jets have played so far, but they will be in a position, they'll be in their best position of all. But the line is based on what the market has seen, and what the market saw was those 3 horrible games by the Jets, and they just saw Philadelphia go into Lambeau Field and win. This thing is pushed up over the 14. It's at 14.5 now. I love the Jets. Take the Jets. Great sandwich spot. Am I calling for an upset? No. Am I calling for one of these games where we're looking at a 24-20 ho-hum game by Philadelphia? Absolutely. Grabbing the points with the Jets. Hold your nose if you have to when you go to the window. Put shades on if you don't want anybody to recognize you betting such an ugly-looking team. But you know what? At the end of the day, when they cash, Drew, they all look the same.
He is Marco D'Angelo. Nice breakdown there, Marco. And I'll tell you, man, I agree with everything you just said about, the bye week and Luke Falk. I don't want to say like Tom Brady, but that's the type of profile he has in terms of, a tall guy can really spin it downfield. We remember him from Washington State. He has, the nice spiral, the arm strength is there. He's got touch on his deep ball as well. So I think that there is talent there. It's just a matter of understanding the offense. And you're right, having that bye week, getting to play with within the offense and practice. I like where you're going with that. 14 in the hook. That's a lot of points in the NFL. So looking towards the New York Jets. And of course, guys, remember Marco's services at WagerTalk.com and using the coupon code MD79 at checkout will give you a 7-day all access for just $79. We got one more NFL, then we're going to talk a little MLB as well as we head into the postseason. The Sunday nighter, Marco, 8:20 Eastern kick here, 5:20 Pacific. We got Indianapolis at Kansas City, seeing a total of 56. Kansas City Chiefs laying doubles as well. So we're talking 2 games with pretty big numbers here in the National Football League, seeing -11 mostly across the board, 56 the total. You interested in getting involved with the Colts and the Chiefs?
Yeah, you know what? The Chiefs are one of those teams, Drew, right now that's everybody's darling. And why not? I mean, they put up points week after week with Pat Mahomes. Before I go to the breakdown on this, Drew, I just want to tell the listeners why that 7-day package is the way to go. I am going to have a 5% play on Saturday. If you bought just that one play by itself, Drew, it's $40. If you take advantage of this 7-day package with the coupon in essence, for $39 more, you're getting 7 days of all of my plays. And we got the win last night. It was, by a half a point, but they all pay the same. We had the Rams, and that brings our record to 24-8 the last 3+ weeks in the NFL. Last week, I didn't plan on it, but when Sunday came and the line continued to move, I ended up adding a second 5% play to my weekend slate. So right there is, if two 5% plays are $80, got all of my plays when you take advantage of that 7-day package. And we're running real well right now in NFL and college football. Back to this one. Sorry for that little plug there, but we, as they say, we got to step out and pay the bills for a quick break, and that was it. What we're looking at here, Kansas City, they escaped Detroit. That was a big game for them to go on the road and play in a dome. Teams that, unless you've really been to a game that's in a dome and understand the different dynamics for the road team and how, it's so much harder to hear your, calling the plays and everything else. For them to go in there and win was a big statement for this team that, Kansas City, we know they're well coached by Andy Reid. We know what Patrick Mahomes did last season and what he's done thus far this season, but that's still a tough environment to go to, and they handled it. But now they're coming home, and I'm going to pull out the old fat and sassy card here for Kansas City, and the public is just in love with them. This line, the look-ahead line on this game was 8.5. The Westgate in Vegas brings out the numbers for the following week's games on Tuesday or Wednesday each week for the following week. And that's a good indication to look so you can see how the market has adjusted off of last week's results. Is it a knee-jerk reaction? Is it an overreaction? And I think this one's an overreaction. For this line to go from 8.5 to 10.5, we saw some 11s for a while, is too much, in my opinion. Yes, Kansas City won. They didn't win in blowout fashion. They only won by 4 points. Detroit got the cover. But I think where the overreaction is from the Indianapolis side, where everybody is overreacting to the fact that Oakland went into Indianapolis and beat them 31-24 wasn't really a true indication of that game. Oakland led throughout. They jumped out 14-0, like boom, boom, and never looked back. That game was not that close. But last week, I was big on Oakland, and because of the situation that Indianapolis was in. Indianapolis was coming off their home opener the week before against Atlanta. Now, we all know Andrew Luck out for the season, and there was a lot of question marks about this team. How far were they going to fall without Andrew Luck? Can Jacoby Brissett be the guy to carry the team? Well, in the first 3 games of the season, he played well, but that third game was their first home game, so he still had something to prove to the home crowd. And the fact that they got the win against Atlanta, and it wasn't as close as the final score, that 27-24. If you remember that game, Drew, Atlanta put up 14 points late in the fourth quarter to make the score look better than it was.
Yeah.
They had total domination of that game. So that was, for me, the satisfying statement win for Brissett and the Colts in front of their home crowd that, hey, we got this. Everything's going to be okay. And so they have that natural letdown with Oakland coming in, who just got blown out by Minnesota the week before. The other part of that is look at who Indianapolis had on deck. Kansas City, the darling of the AFC next to the Patriots, the team that, oh, by the way, knocked them out of the playoffs last year. And I think what people are going to do, Drew, is they're going to look at this game. They're going to remember the playoff game from last year. And the first thing they're going to say is, this was a 31-13 beatdown by the Chiefs last year. And that was with Andrew Luck. Now what are they going to do with Brissett at quarterback? And they're going to automatically go to the Kansas City side. And the reason why the look-ahead line was 8.5 and Vegas could not bring it out at 8.5, if they brought it out at 8.5, they would have gotten absolutely slaughtered with people running to the window to bet teasers and getting it down on a 6-point teaser to 2.5, or take a 7-point teaser and get it to 1.5. They would have just been so one-sided heavy that way. They had to bring it out at least 10, and they went over the 10. That playoff game last year, if you remember, the weather conditions were insane. It was sub-freezing temperatures, swirling winds, and snow. That's not what an indoor dome team wants to be playing in, Drew. They had no shot in that game last year. So because people are going to look at the lopsided win, no Andrew Luck, I think that we've got a unjustified, pumped up, inflated line. I think the value is with Indianapolis. And the bottom line is, as good as Kansas City is playing, and I can't say anything bad about their offense, do you want to be laying double digits with the 30th ranked defense in the NFL?
No, I wouldn't choose to just do that.
That's my last closing statement. We got the 30th ranked defense in the NFL laying double digits. I'm not doing it. I'm taking Indianapolis. I think they keep this game close. And we've seen some, good games on Sunday night. Some of them have been snooze fest, but they've been close. So let's see if we get another one here. This won't be a snooze fest. I can guarantee you that. Kansas City is going to score their points. So Indianapolis is going to have to find a way to at least get into the 20s in this game. And, well, you know what? The only team that hasn't gotten into the 20s against Kansas City has been Oakland. And that was Oakland's second game of the season after that big Monday night game against Denver and all the drama of Antonio Brown that weekend and everything. So it was a bad spot for Oakland. I'm going to take Indianapolis plus the points.
Yeah, the ultimate equalizer plus 11 right now. So looking towards the dog there on Sunday night from Marco D'Angelo, WagerTalk.com. Coupon code MD79 at checkout for a 7-day all access. Huge savings there, guys. Let's quickly hit the MLB diamond here. We got playoffs, Marco, and we did talk the early game with Mid-Major Matt yesterday's show, so you guys can check that out. YouTube, just the show right before we hit on Tampa Bay, Houston. So if you're watching this early, can check that out. But we do have a 4:30 start here, Marco. St. Louis at Atlanta. Flaherty and Folty going for the Braves. And I'll tell you, man, seeing the Cardinals versus the Braves just a few years ago, right when they started the wild card play-in game, Marco, I don't know if you remember, there was that catcher's no, it wasn't. It was the ball that kind of fell, and they called it infield fly rule, and everybody was throwing the beers on. I thought that was wild, man. I was actually at that game in Atlanta. So seeing St. Louis kind of have the Braves number that year and the year before, seeing them play this year is kind of interesting to me. And we're seeing a pretty competitively priced game here with the Cardinals minus 110, 8.5 the total in SunTrust Park. You interested in getting involved with the Cardinals and Braves today?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Drew, I tweeted out a stat yesterday. I'm kicking myself for, not following the stat, but I said that the Atlanta Braves are the Toronto Raptors of Major League Baseball playoffs. Going into yesterday, game one, their history playoffs, game one of series, they're 4-14, now 4-15 after losing yesterday. Remember the Toronto, how bad their record was in first games of NBA playoffs? So big stat there. And for them to lose the game in the fashion that they did, again, I got to question where their mindset's going to be today. And for St. Louis, Fulton Nevich for Atlanta, this is a guy that all year, he's been him and Tehran's been a thorn in my side, because when I go with them, they find they have that rare bad game, and then happens. when I go against them, they look like Cy Young. Okay. But the guy that's looked like Cy Young for a long time has been Flaherty. This guy has just been dealing it. I mean, his last 3 starts, his numbers are insane, Drew. He's got an ERA of 0.41. And then I don't know that I've ever seen a whip like this, but he's got a whip of 0.45. The guy just, he's not giving up hits. His strikeout to walk ratio, he's got 25-4 in his last 3 games. I don't know that I want to get in front of him. You've got this scenario that, when you're in these playoff series, the home team, when they're down 0-1, man, this is basically the season for them here. They got to get that equalizer, but I don't know if they can do it against Flaherty. I might want to look at maybe some little first half under, because both guys are in form. Obviously, Flaherty is. And if we get the Foltynewicz that is the good Foltynewicz, the 2 starts before his last one, 14 innings, he gave up just 1 run, strikeout to walk ratio of 12-2. But in his last outing, a short outing, 4 innings, he gave up 3 runs against the Mets. And the concern was the 3 runs, he only gave up 3 hits, but 2 of those hits left the yard.
So, I mean, when you break down Flaherty and Folty, in terms of they're both high ceiling guys. So if they've got it, I'm with you. If they both show up, I think both opposing offenses are going to have a tough time. So look towards the first half under there for Marco D'Angelo. We got 2 more games here, Marco, on the diamond. Minnesota and the New York Yankees. Berrios versus Paxton. Paxton, of course, coming from the left side, commanding near a -190 price tag. Heavy favorites here for the Yankees. 8.5 the total here, Marco. Both teams can mash. It is in Yankee Stadium. You got any interest in betting this one over?
Yeah, you know what? If I was playing the total, and that's the way you've played totals all year with the Yankees, there's really only one way to look, and that is to look on the over. I look at James Paxton, and he's a guy, Drew, that whenever he's healthy, this guy has stuff that he's one of the best pitchers in the game, but he's injured too often. He's pitched well down the stretch. Just had an inning in his last start, just to get some work. But you look back, the 2 starts before that, 6 innings, 1 run, it was unearned. Start before that, 5 innings, 1 run, strikeout to walk ratio 10-2. But this is a big, big number. And I've actually seen there's some sports books, different places offshore in some of the New Jersey places that has more options. They got numbers up that you could bet the Yankees if they're going to sweep this series. I mean, they're like just dismissing this Minnesota team. This Minnesota team's played consistent all year, and they finished the season with a long road trip, to go down a stretch, and yet they were still winning. Granted, that road trip finished up with Detroit and Kansas City. I think me, you, Ralph, Brian, maybe in a softball tournament would have a shot against Detroit, Kansas City. But I just can't lay that big of a price. I'm going, I agree with you on the over. And if I took a play here, I think I would take a flyer on the Minnesota team with the price.
Yeah,
if I did, price. I think I would look first 5, because here's the thing. There's no question. Once this game goes to the bullpen, the Yankees have a huge, huge advantage. Also, if Minnesota has any shot in this game, it's going to be because we get one of those outings where Paxton's not on his best. So for me, I think the equalizer is come in here and try Minnesota in the first 5 to get a lead, and see if you can get it there. But I agree with you on the over and lean to Minnesota first 5.
Great stuff, Marco. As always, we got one last game here, the nightcap. Washington Nationals, the wild card winner, with Strasburg on the hill versus the LA Dodgers in Dodger Stadium. Kershaw going for LA, commanding about a -150 price tag at home. Lower total here, just at 7.5. Of course, on the West Coast, though, at night, working into it. Strasburg versus Kershaw, 2 dominant pitchers, 2 sexy names there on the hill, but going against 2 lineups that got a shot at getting at them. 7.5 the total, -150. Interested in getting involved here in the nightcap, Marco?
Yeah, I'm going to lean to Washington, and this is going to be a rooting interest for me. I don't know if I pull the trigger because, full disclosure, Drew, back in the summer, I grabbed a little of Washington Nationals at a big number to win the National League. When they started playing well, right before the trade deadline, and I was hoping that they went out at the trade deadline and got a big name closer. That's what I was hoping for, because I thought if this team was able to make their way into the wild card round and win that coin flip game and get into the series, you start any series where you've got a Scherzer, you've got a Corbin, and you've got Strasburg. For your 3 stars, I was going to take a shot in any series, and I thought they were a good play. Now, obviously, they got blasted last night. Was it a bad scheduling spot? Yeah. Coming off the dramatic come from behind win in the wild card game, celebrate a little bit that night, get on a plane, go to LA. You got 1 day off and you start this series. Yes, definitely travel situation favored the Dodgers. And then look at what they did with the starting pitchers. When have you ever seen the Dodgers in a playoff series and not have Clayton Kershaw as the game one opener? I know he still put up good numbers this year, 16-5 record. They were 21-7 in his starts this year. But this wasn't the same Clayton Kershaw that we have seen over, the past decade. The guy, he's on the other side of the hill, but him on the other side of the hill is still better than, 3/4 of Major League Baseball pitchers,
Absolutely.
maybe higher than that. But I look at it and I say right now, the guy that's dealing it is Strasburg. The guy in his last 2 starts, he's given up 1 run, 16-3 strikeout to walk ratio. But in that last outing against Philadelphia, and granted, let's put a little asterisk to Philadelphia. The last 2 weeks of the season, once they were out of it, just like they did last year, this team melded in. I mean, Philadelphia absolutely quit, in my opinion, but he dominated them in the 10 strikeouts. I'm a big guy that, I left in a pun there open for you to jump in there.
No, I'm not going after that.
Okay, but I am a big guy when it comes to looking at the strikeout to walk ratio. When you got a pitcher and you look at Strasburg's 2 starts before that, before the last one, he had 6 strikeouts to 3 walks, 6 strikeouts to 4 walks. Even though he only gave up 2 and 0 runs in those 2 games, I'm not excited about it because he didn't have full command. All right. Yeah, 6 strikeouts is good for most pitchers, but Strasburg is a high strikeout guy. When he comes back in the last one and he has 10 and he has no walks, that tells me he had full command of his entire pitch arsenal. He was getting the ball when he needed a strike. He got it, had total command, no control issues. And I got to build off of that. I think that they are the right side in this one at the price. Yeah, it's tough to go against the Dodgers at home, but look at last night's number, what it was compared to tonight's number. Yes, part of this is factored into people doing, we talk about the zigzag system in the NBA playoffs. It's still a little bit of it in, when you're in this scenario, because we know how hard it is if you fall behind 0-2 in a series. At least they would be going back home. But their goal is just to grab 1 in LA. And that's still on the table. They can grab 1 in LA. I look for them to get the job done today. I got to take them at the price. The fact that you've got the big name pitcher, Clayton Kershaw, he's not the big game delivery pitcher this year. That's Walker Buehler, but he's still the name. And they're putting him out here at a smaller number than Buehler was yesterday after they absolutely, crushed Washington yesterday. That tells me something with the line as well. I'll take Strasburg here and take them plus the big number. I'll take them full game and I'll take them first 5. I'll split my wager up on this one because I'm not sold on this Washington bullpen. We can get into some trouble in late innings, but I think they're live for both of those plays.
I'm with you. I think Washington's the side here at the plus price 2 coming back in game 2. Strasburg's look good. Marco broke it down. Man, great breakdowns overall, Marco. Not only MLB, NFL, and college football all the way through. He really knows his stuff, guys. And check his services out at WagerTalk.com. And, of course, the coupon code, big discount here, MD79 at checkout for his 7-day all-access. Huge discounts there at WagerTalk.com. Also, check out SportsMemo.com. We got 5% plays up. And special coupon code for Sports Memo, we got BE, as in betting edge, just BE. At checkout. 2 5%ers up there at sportsmemo.com. You can get each of them for just $9 today, Friday. 2 of them going tonight at sportsmemo.com. Coupon code BE at checkout. We'll give you each of them for just $9. And of course, the coupon code MD79 for Marco D'Angelo's 7-day all-access package at wagertalk.com for just $79. Marco, anything you want to throw out in conclusion before we shut this down?
This was a really good podcast. I don't know. The listeners are going to probably chime in, and I'm for, if Prez wants to take Fridays off, I'll do this with you. No problem.
All right, whatever he does, I guess.
We love the Prez. We just got to get a little stuff in here. But, if Prez was on, Drew, I know he's got a man crush on you, so I got to say, man, you're looking good today, Drew. Wow, you've been working
let's
out?
Let's not go down that route. Let's not do that. That's kind of awkward. But anyway.
Does he not do that to you?
I don't know if he does that to he's done that to a couple other guys when I'm on shows with him as well. But hey, to each his own. I'm sure he's got the top down on his Mustang, just cruising up in California by now. You think?
Who knows about the Prez, but good guy. We have fun with him, and this was a fun show. Just a little bit of banter, not a lot, but we got a lot of info in for the viewers.
Absolutely, man. Always fun, Marco. Best of luck tonight and this weekend if I don't talk to you. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Best of luck to you. Have a fun, safe weekend, and cash those tickets.